Vladimir Putin has made very, very irresponsible threats regarding the potential use of nuclear weapons in this conflict. And I think the world needs to demonstrate that it's not going to be tolerated. We have to tell him, we have to say it very clearly and directly that the consequences of nuclear use in this conflict will be beyond his imagination.
What exactly has Vladimir Putin said that Russia is considering using nuclear weapons in Ukraine?
He has. He's threatened to defend the annexed territories with all the means at his disposal. He said that right after the annexation. He said on the 21st of September, reminding the world that Russia possesses nuclear weapons. And throughout this crisis, he's made statements. But I don't think they're very credible. I think this is actually, his recent statements are designed to try to force negotiations. I think he's worried that he's losing on the battlefield. And he's trying to scare the West into pushing Ukraine towards negotiations. And again, we just have to show that these kinds of threats are irresponsible and they won't work.
Do you think he's having any gain at all from threatening to use nuclear weapons?
No, I don't think so. In fact, yesterday, the Chinese and the Indians both came out with statements saying that the conflict should de-escalate because of Russian strikes on population centers, and this was with conventional weapons. If he loses Chinese and Indian support on evading sanctions, his economy is going to be in even worse danger than it is right now. So no, these threats are already demonstrably not working.
So you don't think it will ever come to that then, Russia using nuclear weapons in Ukraine?
I honestly do not believe that it is in Russia's interest, and I think Putin knows it. I think he has consistently throughout his reign, especially over the past 8 years, tried to use nuclear weapons for coercive outcomes. And it just doesn't work. It's not credible that he would use them in this conflict. He stands to lose much more by using them than by not using them. So I think he is also happy to throw a lot of things out there, a lot of different types of threats, and to see what works. And consistently, when people stand up to him, he tends to back down. So I think he'll back down in this case as well.
And how is NATO responding to perceived threats from Russia and Vladimir Putin's warnings of World War III should Ukraine ever join NATO?
Again, I think he's trying to use the maximum threats he has that he knows that he thinks will work in order to try to coerce an outcome. But I also think the West knows that without some kind of guarantee for Ukraine's security, any peace or ceasefire is just going to be an interregnum where Russia's going to build up their forces and do it again. And so sadly, he's created the conditions where the only guarantee of Ukraine's security would be membership in NATO. And I think the longer combat goes on and the more Ukrainians win on the battlefield, I think the more that's going to be on the table in any kind of peace talks.
And William, the UK says Russia will run out of weapons before the West does in Ukraine.
I think the Russians are going to run out of the precision-guided munitions, the longer-range cruise missiles, and ground-launched ballistic missiles like the Iskander. I think there is a threat that they're going to run out of those, or certainly it's going to cut into their stocks that they need for contingencies for other types of conflicts. But they're not going to run out of bullets. They're not going to run out of artillery. They're not going to run out of the dumb ammunition that they're using to kill civilians, and that's a real danger.
William, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you joining The World. William Alberque talking to us there.